Welcome back to Smith History, separating the Smith from the myth. The podcast where memory meets myth, where nostalgia meets narrative, and where, if you listen closely enough, you might just hear a whisper coming from the cornfield saying, "Brian, record the podcast, and they will listen." Today's podcast is titled Field of Dreams. And yes, I know what you're thinking. You've already done podcasts about family, faith, food, and fiascos from family archives. What's left? Well, today I'm stepping into sacred ground, at least from a Hollywood viewpoint. A place where baseball, memory, and movie magic collide. A place where fathers and sons meet again. A place where my wife Patti once hugged an actor so tightly I thought she was trying to make me jealous or steal his wallet. But we'll get to that. Today I'm talking about the movie Field of Dreams, our pilgrimage to the real field in Dyersville, Iowa, and how baseball, America's pastime, became a Smith family emotional time machine. Let's start with the film itself. Released the same year my youngest child Marcus was born in 1989, Field of Dreams was directed by Phil Alden Robinson and based on W.P. Kinsella's novel Shoeless Joe. Kevin Costner, who in the late 80s and early 90s it seemed was in every baseball movie, stars as Ray Kinsella, an Iowa farmer who hears a voice whisper, "If you build, he will come." Not they, not the fans, not the IRS, but he will come. And Ray, being a reasonable man, does what any of us would do if a mysterious voice spoke to us from a cornfield. He plows under his only source of income and builds a baseball field. The cast is iconic. Kevin Costner, earnest and hopeful. James Earl Jones, whose voice could make a grocery list sound like scripture. Ray Liotta, playing Shoeless Joe Jackson with a Brooklyn accent so thick you could spread it on a bagel. Burt Lancaster, in his final film role, playing Moonlight Graham with the kind of grace that makes grown men cry into their popcorn. This movie wasn't just about baseball. It was about regret, reconciliation, and the universal longing to have one more conversation with someone you've lost. I totally can relate to that. It was about fathers and sons. It was about second chances. It was about hearing a whisper and daring to believe it. It is what drew me to this movie, and eventually to the movie location. And the music? James Horner's score doesn't just accompany the movie. It haunts it. It lifts you, carries you, and gently sets you down in a place where memory and imagination blur. Every time I hear those first few notes, I'm transported back to the 1970s, standing in the yard with my dad, learning how to throw and catch a baseball. Baseball was the game of my dad's youth. Growing up in the 30s and 40s, he was good. Very good. I once talked to an old-timer from Harpster, Ohio, who remembered my dad as a teenager hitting balls onto the roof of the school building. That's not myth. That is Smith. Dad might have had a future in baseball, but life had other plans. Family responsibilities, work. His father, my grandfather, who said, "You can't waste time playing baseball. It's time to earn a paycheck." Dreams were deferred, but never forgotten. Maybe that's why Field of Dreams hit so close to home. Harder than Pete Rose slamming into Ray Fosse at home plate. Because when Kevin Costner in the movie asked his dad, "You want to have a catch?" That's not a movie line. That's a prayer. Now let's fast forward to 2016. Patti and I were inspired to make the pilgrimage to the real Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa. The movie whispered, "Go the distance."
Go the distance.
And we did. Finding it wasn't easy. It's off the beaten path, way off. You don't stumble upon the Field of Dreams. You seek it. You earn it. It's like the Holy Land for baseball fans, except with more corn and fewer camels. Patti was actually born in Iowa before her family moved back south to Arkansas. When I told her we were going to the Field of Dreams in Iowa, she was thrilled. She is a Cubs fan, born a couple of hours south of Chicago. I, being a Ohio boy, naturally rooted for the Cleveland Indians. On the day we visited, the sky was overcast with occasional rain showers, but the weather didn't dampen our spirits. In fact, it made the place feel even more mystical, like the ghosts were warming up in the bullpen. Because of the rain, hardly anyone was there. Just a few die-hard fans and 2 Field of Dreamers from Ohio. One fan took a picture of Patti and me on the pitcher's mound. Patti in her Cubs jersey, me in my tribe uniform. We didn't know it then, but that photo would become prophetic, because later that year, the Cubs and the Indians would meet in one of the greatest World Series matchups of all time. But I'll get back to that. Patti and I soaked up every foot of the Field of Dreams location, like a grounds crew getting ready for the game. We walked into the cornfield. We sat on the bleachers. We played catch on the infield. And at one point, overwhelmed by the moment, I looked at Patti and said, "Is this heaven?" She didn't miss a beat. "No," she said, "it's Iowa."
Hey, is this heaven? No. It's Iowa.
We stayed for hours. We didn't want to leave, because for a little while, time stood still, and I felt close to my dad again. Now, let's talk about that World Series in 2016. The Cubs versus the Tribe. The baseball gods must have been smiling that year. The Cubs, Patti's team, hadn't won a World Series since 1908. The Indians, my team, hadn't won since 1948. 2 cursed franchises, 2 long-suffering fan bases, 1 epic showdown. Game 7 was a masterpiece. There was drama, tension, and then a rain delay that felt like it lasted 3 days. Patti and I had stayed up very late to watch it. But during the rain delay, we had to go to bed. We had to get up and go to work the next morning.
Go the distance.
We laid there in bed and decided, no, you don't sleep through history. And we got back up. The Cubs won in extra innings. Patti celebrated. I mourned. And then we both went to work the next morning with no sleep and a shared memory we'll never forget. It was baseball at its finest. It was heartbreak and joy wrapped into one. It was the kind of game that reminds you why baseball once mattered so much to me. Now let's get back to the Field of Dreams, back to Iowa. Standing on that field, I thought about Moonlight Graham. His real name was Archibald Graham, who played one inning in the majors but never got to bat. The movie gave him the at-bat he never had in life. It gave him dignity. It gave him closure. And Burt Lancaster, what a performance. His scenes feel like they were carved out of nostalgia itself. My only complaint about the movie, Shoeless Joe Jackson. Ray Liotta played him with a Brooklyn accent, and he batted right-handed. Shoeless Joe was a country boy with a southern drawl and a gorgeous left-handed swing. For a historian and baseball purist like myself, authenticity matters. But I forgive the movie a little bit because everything else is perfect. A few years later, Patti and I went to the National Sports Convention in Cleveland. And who did we meet? Dwyer Brown, the actor who played Ray's dad. Now, meeting Kevin Costner would have been something. But meeting Dwyer Brown was still pretty special. He was gracious, kind, and warm. We posed for pictures. He signed autographs. And Patti? Well, Patti put her arm pretty tightly around his waist, and she leaned into him like she was posing for the family Christmas card. And Dwyer hugged her back. I remember standing there thinking, these are the advantages to being an actor, especially one who played the dad in Field of Dreams. So, what is it about Field of Dreams that keeps calling us back? Maybe it's the music. Maybe it's the story. Maybe it's the ghost stepping out of the corn. Maybe it's the reminder that our fathers never really leave us. Not as long as we remember the sound of a baseball hitting a glove. Not as long as we remember the lessons they taught us. Not as long as we keep telling their stories. Baseball was the game of my youth. My love for it has dimmed over the years. I rarely follow the game now, except for the World Series, or to listen to the Guardians play-by-play man Tom Hamilton. But every time I watch Field of Dreams, I'm transported back to those summer evenings in the 1970s, playing catch with Dad and my brother Jeff on a Little League field in a small Ohio town where Jeff and I won 2 Little League championships. And for a moment, I'm a kid again. Dad is young again. The world is simple. And the field is a field of dreams. Because the movie was right. If you build it, they will come. And one day, Patti and I did. This has been Smith History, separating the Smith from the myth. Thank you for walking a few steps into the cornfield with me today, and a few steps back in history.
Hey! Is this heaven? No. It's Iowa.